How do you create career-defining music? Well, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. And one of them is by a simple production trick known as layering. If you take a simple sound, it can be pretty plain on its own, and then you add extra layers to it. You do different things. You add other instruments in different registers, and suddenly it takes this very simple idea or sound or motif that you have throughout a song, and it just expands it into this epic sound, wall of goodness, if you will. Not everything you create will need this massive kind of wall of sound or epic thing, but it's good to know how to do for those moments when you do need it. And I've got a song that I want to show you which will demonstrate how you can do this effectively. But before I dive into this, if you are an alternative pop artist looking to create career-defining music to take yourself to that next level, check the description below and book in a call with me, and we'll see if we're a good fit. I can take on a few artists every month working on their projects. So this song here is called Jericho, and this song came about very interestingly. I created a demo of it and shared it on social media, and then I had two singers send me two different vocal lines. I loved them both, and they were both of the same theme. So I thought, why not bring these two people together and we create this masterpiece? So I brought their vocals in and we created the entire song here. So I'm going to play through the whole thing, and then I'll break down some of the things that I'm doing, especially in this kind of big section over here. If I just open up all the tracks here, you can see exactly what's going on here. So I'll just play it.
I put up my walls and all my defenses, 'cause I'm afraid to fall in love again. I closed all my doors, 'cause I don't mind pretending like nobody's here. But if I let you in, would you show me love? True love like nobody else. Then I'll do it again. I'll take your word, but only God knows how hard it is to make these walls fall down like Jericho. To make these walls fall down like Jericho.
With you, better is the morning, waking to the light. Doubt is dissipating and wrongs becoming right. Better is the journey, walking by your side. Every step we're moving on, yeah, we're taking time. Stand still, and my heart's now filled with a hope I can't ignore. So I rest in peace. Fear can finally leave. I'm not the same as before. So make these walls fall down like Jericho.
To make a fall.
So make these walls fall down. Will you? Better now is living,
So much better.
feeling so alive. Joy so liberating that my soul is taking flight. Better now is singing, eyes are open wide. Starting out to take the lead, make the most of time. Stand still, and my heart's now filled with a hope I can't ignore. So I rest in peace. Fear can finally leave. I'm not the same as before.
Okay, cool. That's the song. So really epic, bit of an epic moment, especially towards the end here. And this is what I would want to focus on, is this kind of last bit here and show you all the different layers to get that big massive sound. So I'm just going to close up all these tracks here and turn off the vocals for now. So I'm a really big fan of minimal instruments, like keeping things as simple as possible, because you can be really intentional about everything that you do. But the same logic applies if you're layering sounds up and trying to create this epic thing. Everything has to serve a purpose. There has to be intention behind everything. And when you're starting to add lots of different layers, rather than seeing them as like kind of maybe individual parts like features or supports to the main featured part, I like to treat things as flavors. So I want a bit of that flavor in there. I think that will add to the overall vibe. Think of it like you're creating a cake, or even like you're creating some kind of one pot dish from scratch. You're going to add a bunch of different seasonings in there to give you the overall flavor. So you don't necessarily taste the individual seasonings itself, but you do taste it all together as one flavor. And that's how I like to view a big kind of production like this. So let's dive in. So let's start with just the guitars here. This is how they sound just in this kind of final bit here where everything kind of kicks off. This is how they sound. Cool. So let's break this down. So the first thing that I'm hearing, bearing in mind I produced this a while ago, so I'm now just trying to recount what my thinking was. This acoustic guitar here was the main sort of focal point of the entire production. And so what I decided to do was, in this big bit here, was add these two guitars that basically mimic this kind of rhythm. You see, you have to say the same rhythm, like a da, 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 like that. However, with the guitars, they're both, although they're playing the same rhythm, they're playing two different things. The left guitar is playing something a bit deeper, something more chordal. And then on the right side, it's playing the same rhythm, but now we're playing what is called a pedal note in music. It's playing, or sometimes it's referred to as a drone perhaps. Basically, it's playing a note or two. In this case, it's two notes up high, and it's just staying there. So no matter where the chord moves with the other two guitars here, this one remains constant. And this is a really great way to add kind of this really openness, this really epic openness to a sound. And it also can create tension naturally and then resolve whenever the main chords move. It then creates the tension against the pedal note. And then when you go back to the tonic, it then has this sense of release again. So this is a really cool and effective way. But you can see that every single part are doing different things. We have the acoustic guitar, which tonally sounds like an acoustic. And then these two electrics, although similar in the amp sound, they are playing two different things in two different registers. Underneath here, we have this acoustic octave. I mean, that's really, really quiet. You don't hear it in that section. This is more for earlier on in the song. I just took the main guitar here and I pitched it up an octave just to give a bit of extra flavor up at the top there. Looking at the mid section here, this has all the keys and the strings in, and this is how it sounds. So sounding pretty epic. The main thing that is kind of mimicking what these guitars are doing from what I'm hearing here is this piano, which is playing this. You can see it's got the same rhythm here. I'm playing it quite hard. And again, it's, although doing the same thing, where it's a piano, it's tonally a different sound. So it's going to add to the overall layers. So again, it's kind of mimicking what's already there, as opposed to acting as a sort of a counter rhythm melody or anything like that. It's more of a counter sound, so to speak. It's giving us, again, as I said earlier, that different flavor. The other thing we have going is this mellotron. This is the main melody that you heard earlier in the song. This is just a consistent theme running throughout the entire song. I was thinking about removing it, but I thought I just kind of want, again, those little sounds just poking through. And we don't actually have any other predominant melodies other than the main vocals in that section. So this acts, in my mind, as a counter melody. It sits underneath everything rather than taking the lead. It's something that you may hear in the back, but if you don't, it's kind of adding to the overall vibe. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it kind of mimics the rhythm of the guitars and this piano here. So that melody's going dun 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 like that, and the piano's going dun da like that. So they all line up in some way, which is quite crucial, right? If you are layering up lots of different sounds, it's important to know that they kind of work with each other from a rhythmic perspective as well. You know, if I started trying to do some really interesting rhythms with this piano that were different to this guitar, that were different to this melody here, it would start to sound messy. Whereas because they all kind of fall on the same beat of the bar, even though they're playing different things, it still sounds together. There's this sense of togetherness that surrounds it. So that's what they're doing. Moving swiftly on to, I guess, what we would call our more padded sections here. So we have this OBXA, which is a synthesizer. This is really simple, just chords playing all the way through. And you can hear that the sound in isolation is actually really quite fizzy. It's really actually not an awesome sound on its own. The synth itself is amazing, but the way that I've mixed it doesn't sound incredible on its own. But it's, again, a flavor to the whole thing. Because if I go down to the choir here and play this, and then I go down to the strings here, right, we've got three primary padded sections. We have a choir and some strings. When you add the synth, that fizzy top end is what gives it extra energy. So I'm pretty sure that all of these parts here are just playing the exact same voicings of chords. Maybe slightly different, but you know, you've got the choir for that human element with all the voices. You've got the strings, which again, very orchestral, and orchestras always have lots of players and it's big and epic sounding. And then obviously the synth is the electronic sound, the thing that's giving that top end energy that you can't get from these two. So again, every single sound is serving a purpose in this part here. You have the kind of human element of the voices. You have a range of low to mid to high. You have the strings, which cover, again, a big wide range, but the sound of a string is very unique. And then you have the super top end energy, high end energy from the synth there. So they're all serving their purpose there. On top of that, what is quite typical to do with an orchestral arrangement is to have your main kind of bed of chords, and then you have a melody that sits over the top of that. And that was what I played just before, which is this. So this is not necessarily an independent lead melody. I would still call this like a support part, right? Because, you know, don't forget, you've got the main dun, dun, dun melody from before. You've also got the vocals in at this point. This, again, is just adding some more movement and flavor to the very top end of this kind of orchestral arrangement here. It's quite typical to do, but it just makes and these sort of chords sound slightly less static, which I really, really like. So they're the main things that are happening within that entire section here, certainly in this last bit anyway. And if I just play this all in isolation. Sounds pretty epic. And I would define each instrument falls into one of two categories, I'd say. You either have the padded long sound or you have the short rhythmic sounds, the things that are giving the groove. And so you've got the guitars, you've got the piano that are giving the groove, and then you've got the long drawn out pads to really fill that space in and glue everything together. So when you're next creating some kind of big epic arrangement, have a think about what purpose each instrument is serving and then what flavor that particular thing is adding to your song. If there's a lot of high-end energy, is that the flavor you want to add? If it's got a really deep, rich bottom end, is that the flavor you want to add? And then if that deep, rich bottom end is really, really low and you want just a little bit more crunch in the mid-range, maybe you could layer in another instrument for that flavor. So have a think about the properties of each instrument that you use. You know, with the synth, there was a lot of top end. With the strings, you have that kind of the sound of the bow on the strings. And then with the voices, you have just the natural sort of waver of how humans sound. Every instrument has a property and adds a new flavor. So think about how you would put that into your bigger arrangements. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found that useful. And hopefully. And as I said before, if you're looking to create music yourself, I can only take on a few artists a month. Book a call with the link below and we'll chat and see if I'm a good fit for you. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.